Giuoco Pianissimo appears on the board when white, instead of building the center with c3 and d4, opts for a slower approach with either d3, castling, or knight c3. Some say it's the definition of boring, but this video will show you how to launch a kingside attack and enjoy the view from black's perspective. First tip, whatever white plays, do not castle. The plan only works if you keep your king in the center a little longer, because there are good chances you'll go for h6 and g5 with the attack on their king. And it hits really well when white castles and plays h3 to stop a bishop g4 pin. That pawn on h3 becomes the perfect hook for your pawn storm. On the other side, if they castle and play bishop g5, it's even better. You push h6 and g5, both with tempi on the bishop, getting two free moves, and their bishop ends up stuck on g3. And that's another key moment to remember. In these positions, the g3 bishop is terrible, staring at a concrete wall. Sometimes black will go for this h6 g5 even after castling kingside. That alone shows how powerful it is when you still have the option to castle queenside. And you'll be surprised how often this happens, even when strong players are involved. In this game we had d3 first, and then bishop g5. That's already good news for black, but one more piece still needs to fall into place. Their king has to castle. And I always prefer to keep my intentions hidden until I see white's king on g1. But it doesn't mean we cannot start with h6. The best move for the bishop is to drop back to e3, but many players keep the pin, thinking black will eventually castle, in which case this bishop turns super annoying. Now black chose to play d6. White should develop a piece or play c3. But instead, they rush to castle. Ironically, it makes their king less safe. And this is exactly what we wanted. Their bishop stuck on h4, the king castled, while ours is still in the center. All that is just begging for g5. And now we see that unhappy passive bishop on g3. Now I'd probably slow down here, castle queenside, and only then continue pushing the kingside pawns. But black did not pause. He immediately went for h5. At first it looks simple, threatening to trap the bishop. But the g5 pawn is hanging, and after knight takes g5, there is pressure on f7. Let's see what happens after h4, knight takes f7, queen e7, knight takes h8, and h takes g3. White has a problem with their knight in the corner, while this g3 pawn is quite tough to deal with. The move f takes g cannot be played, while h takes g opens the h-file for the black's attack. For example, after queen h7, the piece escapes, but after knight g4, it's game over. In case white tries to escape with a knight right away, there is bishop takes f2 check, king h1 and knight g4 again, which covers the h6 square, so there is no escape for the opponent's knight, while queen h4 is next. The other knight's move, knight g6, fails as well due to queen h7, double attacking h2 and g6. Black picks up the knight and is winning due to the open h-file. This is just an example of how it may look. In the game we had bishop f7 check, forcing the king to d8, because if king f8 there is knight g6 fork. Now after h takes g, you might be thinking white is up 3 pawns in an exchange, overall +5. On top of that, our king cannot castle, while theirs looks safe behind 3 pawns. What could possibly be so wrong that the engine still says white is lost? For the start, there is this queen f8 move, a double attack that wins a piece. After knight g6, queen takes f7 and knight h4, it becomes more obvious what black should do next. First comes bishop g4, then getting the king off the back rank. White finally developed the knight, which looks innocent, but it's actually threatening knight a4, shutting down black's key attacker. So black answered with a6. Now, white really wanted to make room for their king by advancing the f-pawn. He played knight d1, aiming for e3 to finally unpin the pawn. Well, for the same reason, Molchanov chopped off this knight. Queen recaptured and then rook g8, threatening to grab g3. If white moves the king to unpin the f2 pawn, knight g4 jumps in. If queen d2, we have queen f6 with the idea rook h8, rook takes h4 and mate on h2. White realized that the g3 pawn cannot be protected and played c3, trying to push d4 at some point, blocking this for them quite painful diagonal. And that's exactly what happened after black took on g3. It looks like two pieces are hanging now. But this move, rook g4, saves the day. White didn't like this exchange offer and played knight f5, defending the d4 pawn at the same time. Black took, and then if bishop b6 was played, the game would still be winning. But instead black wanted to keep this sharp style and played queen g6. Point being, after d takes c, a rook takes g2 check, king h1, there is rook g4, threatening mate on the h-file. The only move is knight g3, but white's king is too much exposed and there are simply too many attackers involved. Black played knight h5, planning knight f4, followed by queen h6 and queen h3, with mate on g2. White brought the queen closer, but after knight d4, things got even worse. Now with queen e3, black has knight f4, and after queen takes d4, the same plan follows. Queen h6 check, king g1, queen h3, and mate is inevitable on g2. And that's it. Now let's sum up what's important to understand here. First, unless white forces us to, we do not castle early in this opening. Second, we're actually happy to see them castle with h3 or bishop g5. That's when our pawn storm with h6 and g5 hits even harder. Third, and this one we didn't really see in the game, if white plays better and puts the bishop on e3, they're trying to make us double their pawns. If we go along with that, we're giving them chances for a kingside attack. That's why in most cases we just step back with the bishop and let them double our pawns instead, opening the a-file for our rook. And here is a nice twist. You can flip that idea around. If you're not sure what to do with your bishop, just offer an exchange on e6. If they take and double your pawns, you actually get better center control, a semi-open f-file, and a clear path for your queen to swing over to the king side via e8. And if white refuses to trade, no problem, just bring your queen up and consider castling long. The key thing to remember is this: these are not fixed instructions. They are options you can choose from, depending on what your opponent does, of course. And that's the fun part. Once you get feel for these patterns, you'll always know how to turn a slow pianissimo into an exciting kingside attack. Give it a try in your own games and let me know how it goes.